Manchester 1993, one of the world's most famous footballing cities, is for the moment home sweet home to one of the most exciting talents in the world game. International striker, full-time philosopher and footballing artist Aah Cantona, enfant terrible of the French game turned English phenomenon.
C'est une des solutions que j'ai trouvées à certains problèmes, quoi, me dire que j'étais de passage.
My solution was to say to myself, you're just passing through. This way, when things got difficult, I'd say to myself, you're just passing through.
I don't know why, but I love you. I'm sorry, but I am very, very, very happy. Thank you very much.
Last season's championship success at Leeds United was definitely one of the highlights, but not the only memorable moment in a career that's always been colourful, often controversial, but never dull.
D'être passé par beaucoup d'endroits aussi, c'est important.
It's important to have been places. I have travelled. I've seen many people, and that's important. It's important for yourself and for your relationships with others.
A cold, wintry day at the Cliff, Manchester United's training ground. The surroundings are in sharp contrast to the hustle and bustle of the south of France, where Cantona began life and his footballing career. But the different surroundings have been a key factor in Cantona's success in England. The different attitude to the game has helped relax the rebel. His decision to come here surprised many, but in England, Cantona has found a kindred spirit.
On m'a dit, il y a un truc en Angleterre, tout ça. Bon, peut-être que c'est pour quitter la France.
I was told there's something about England. I said I'd like to go there because I think the football and the people suit me, especially the people and the lifestyle. But that's what I thought, and I don't think I was wrong. So I started from scratch. When I arrived here, the spectators didn't know me, and I had to make my mark. I've proved quite a lot, and I still have a lot more left to prove. And it was great to win the league championship with Leeds United.
But nothing has ever been simple for Cantona. His arrival in the winter of 1991 was preceded by his reputation and controversy over whether it was Sheffield Wednesday or Leeds United he'd be joining. He turned down Wednesday after a brief trial, but liked what he heard from the Leeds manager Howard Wilkinson, who'd taken a gamble but was convinced the good would far outweigh the bad. In the player, Leeds fans took no time at all in finding an affectionate nickname for. And so convinced was Wilkinson that even though he was only half fit, Cantona was made substitute for Leeds' next vital match in their title season at Oldham. And for Leeds supporters, Cantona's debut was the most memorable thing about the game, as Oldham took a half-time lead. For Cantona, it was all new, which made it doubly exciting, but if he was keen to get on the pitch, he didn't have much longer to wait. Oldham went desperately close to doubling their lead before half-time, and it was then that Leeds decided the time was right for their French import. It wasn't a fairy tale start, but within minutes there were signs of the extra dimension Cantona would give Leeds in their run into the title. His speed for a big man and his strength were perfectly suited to the English challenge. His technical ability would help him stand out. Cantona was keen to make a big impression, and the Leeds fans desperately wanted to like what they saw. Come the end of the match at Oldham, neither were too disappointed, even if Leeds left Lancashire with nothing to show for an improved second-half performance. Oldham, needing to win for different reasons at the other end of the table, got a second goal in the dying minutes. But Cantona had made an encouraging start, and things would only get better in front of the passionate Leeds public, whose affection for the wayward Frenchman was to turn into a fully fledged love affair. The rebel had been given a cause, and against Luton Town he came off the bench again, only this time to even greater effect. Almost immediately he could have put Leeds in front. He didn't, but top marks for artistic impression. And it was looking as though it might be one of those days for Leeds against another team desperate for points to stave off relegation. Rod Wallace beats Steve Sutton but sees his shot come back off the Luton bar. Even so, Leeds were full of increased self-belief thanks to their new substitute's arrival, personified by Gary McAllister, who went straight for the jugular. He didn't score, it was left to the number 14 to add the finishing touch. It might not have been the greatest or the most spectacular goal of Cantona's career, but its importance for the player and for Leeds the team was there for all to see. And Leeds' second was typical of the remainder of their season as they flooded forward, and Lee Chapman, their top scorer, who was to benefit enormously from Cantona's presence alongside him, volleyed in the sort of goal that had become the Frenchman's trademark. If the run into the title was a team effort and a tribute to the management skills of Howard Wilkinson, the gloss was provided by Cantona. Wearing the number 3 shirt but playing up front, he gate-crashed the Wimbledon defence, one of the most notorious in the league, to score another vital goal. And then in the final weeks of the season, fitter and more attuned to the pace of the English game, he scored what many regarded as the goal of the season against Chelsea. And in a season full of many memorable moments, there was no better goal scored at Ellen Road. Cantona had played a key role in Leeds' first title for 18 years, and what's more, they'd beaten their arch-rivals Manchester United in the run-in.
Why I love you? I don't know why, but I love you.
When he came to Leeds United last season, he came with a reputation as something of a bad boy. Now, Leeds fans aren't noted for their best behaviour sometimes, and I think that actually went down very well with Leeds. They wanted to see what this supposed bad boy of French football was like.
Something about his personality when he's on the field, you know. When I look at the Leeds team, I tend to look at Cantona because there's something special about him.
And just as Leeds had gone to the top of the table, so Cantona went straight to the top of the charts. Everyone from the marketing men to the musicians' union were quick to jump on the Cantona bandwagon.
why I love you. I don't know why, but I love you.
Why I love you. I don't know why, but I love you.
I don't know why I love you. I don't know why I love you. I don't know why I love you, but I love you. I don't know why I love you. I don't know why I love you. I don't know why I love you, but I love you.
Je crois vivre quelque chose à part, quoi, puisque le football anglais, c'est...
I think I'm living something really quite different and special, since English football represents many clubs which have won many things. There are lots of stories. Every stadium has a life of its own. The spectators are very close, which makes you want to play.
Tout ce qui fait autour du football, c'est pour les stars, quoi. Les stars, c'est...
Everything around football is geared towards the stars. But the stars are players, nothing more. And that's made very clear to us. And that's important. I don't think it's true elsewhere. It's important that we're there to help others put on a show. And it's fine to like artists, but they still have to perform and score. I was lucky enough to play for Leeds when they were champions. And this year I'm playing for Manchester, and we're winning a lot of matches. And thanks to this, I'm becoming well known. But if you lose, you are criticized. Leeds' way of playing is very direct. What counts is the realism, the goals. And we're not just talking about the essential before the superfluous. This is essential.
C'est même pas l'essentiel avant le superflu, c'est l'essentiel.
I think that's what I was lacking. It has helped me a lot. I would not have been able to play for Manchester if I hadn't spent time with Leeds. We were made to think only about realism, and this was very important.
And by the start of the 1992-93 season, Cantona had clearly adapted to the special demands of English football. Selected by the Leeds management from the start for the Charity Shield against Liverpool, he inspired Leeds to a 4-3 win and scored a hat-trick in the process. As Leeds began the defence of their title, Cantona simply carried on where he left off. By the end of the month, he was the new FA Premier League's top scorer, and the main reason Tottenham Hotspur, who came to Elland Road with a new multi-million-pound strike force, was sent packing 5-1. And Elland Road, where Leeds had been unbeaten during their championship season and which now boasted a brand new 16,000-seater stand, was brimming with confidence. At Oldham, a couple of weeks later, Cantona's goal tally stretched away well into double figures. Despite their continued hot streak of form at home, Leeds had yet to win away, but Cantona poached an early goal. Then, on the end of another Gary McAllister pass, he made a one-on-one with the goalkeeper look easy. Things to come. The European Cup was the #1 target at Elland Road, but in the first round, Leeds trailed Stuttgart of Germany 3-0 after the first leg. Cantona's header and Gary Speed's volley gave them the ideal platform to claw back the deficit. But when the Germans scored just past the half-hour and exposed Leeds' vulnerability at the back again, a difficult task had all but turned into mission impossible. But a clumsy foul on Lee Chapman and Gary McAllister's penalty gave Leeds new heart just before half-time. Just after it, Cantona, as fired up as anyone, made it 3-1. 2 more goals and Leeds would go through. They only got one more from Chapman. But a bizarre breach of the rules by Stuttgart and a replay victory took Leeds through to a Battle of Britain second-round tie with Glasgow from Mark Hateley, and then a second just after half-time from their top scorer Ali McCoist. Late on, Cantona pulled one back, but that night his career at Leeds effectively came to an end. Two weeks later, English football was stunned by the news from Old Trafford that Cantona would be joining Manchester United. Leeds had agreed to a £1 million offer from Alex Ferguson. Shock, anger and bitterness greeted the announcement in Yorkshire, where Cantona's cult status had been at its peak. Now the idol of so much attention hadn't just left, he joined their arch-rivals. The team who many were tipping to win the championship, Leeds looked less and less capable of hanging on to. But Cantona, no stranger to upsetting people, was convinced he'd made the right decision. And Old Trafford was just the latest point of call in a career that's always looked like it would be going places.
J'ai commencé, je devais avoir 4 ou 5 ans. J'ai commencé au Caillol.
When I started, I must have been 4 or 5, in my home neighbourhood of Caillol. And I used to go to the stadium there with my brother, who's 4 years older than me. And I started in the football school there.
de Marseilles, à Marseilles, avec Célestin Oliver, comme entraîneur, professeur d'éducation physique. Ensuite,
Later, I was selected for the junior French team.
Cadet première année.
And that's when I was spotted by a scout for Auxerre. I signed for them, and since I liked it, I stayed. From the honours division, I moved up to the 3rd division, and then played several matches in the 1st division until the end of the season. My first goal was against Rouen.
And it was on May the 14th, 1985, and in the 64th minute to be precise.
From October until the end of the season, I played on loan for Marseilles. I had a good year in the 2nd division. My girlfriend at the time lived in Aix-en-Provence, and being based at Marseilles, I could spend a lot more time with her. Then we got married, had a child, and we're still together.
If home is now the north of England, there's a certain irony that it's Manchester who, ever since the days of Bobby Charlton, Dennis Law and George Best, have expected their teams not only to win, but win with style. So Cantona couldn't be more at home in his new surroundings. But then there's always been something of the Red Devil in this Frenchman. Auxerre was the first major team in Cantona's career, a provincial club built around one of the best youth systems in French football. They recruited Cantona, encouraged his talents, and not before long, he was charming a nation. Against Bordeaux in the 1987 season, Cantona's class is there for all to see on live television in France. Bordeaux dominate the championship, but Cantona overshadows their team of stars, and a call-up for the national team isn't far away.
L'équipe de France A, j'ai joué mon premier match.
I played my first match for the French A team against Germany in Berlin. I was just 21. We lost 2-1, but I'd scored a goal, which was important, since many players have played in the French team, although few have remained. And it's often the first match which determines whether or not you're going to last.
C'est souvent le premier match qui te... Soit tu vas loin, soit tu t'arrêtes vite fait, quoi. Et puis bon, c'était important de bien le jouer, quoi. Même si on avait perdu, c'était un match amical, c'était pas très important.
Although it was only a friendly, luckily I did score that goal.
Ça m'a permis de jouer.
And I'm still here.
Ça m'a permis de jouer. Ça me permet aujourd'hui d'être encore en équipe de France.
After that goal-scoring debut for France, Cantona is the star of Auzer's run in the UEFA Cup. It's eventually ended by the Greeks of Panathinaikos, but Cantona has only enhanced his growing reputation. And in the French league, the exciting young Auxerre team prosper, largely thanks to Cantona. It didn't take Cantona long to settle in at Old Trafford. For all the acrimony that accompanied his move from Leeds, he's undoubtedly a player who revels in the spotlight, in being the centre of attention. He's also a winner, and that's been the case ever since his early days in the French under-21 team, which won the European Championship, in great style, with Cantona in the leading role.
The second season was unbelievable. I was in the French team that won the European Under-21 Championship in 1988, and we had many triumphs. There was a good team spirit, and in time we realized that we were all pretty gifted, since the majority of us played in the France A team and played in the First Division. At the same time, friendship bonds had been formed. We played football in total freedom, as if we were children with no cares.
On s'entendait tellement bien, quoi, que qu'on jouait au foot comme on avait joué quand on était gamin, quoi, sans retenue, quoi, en toute liberté.
The under-21 team is a team that plays the sort of expressive, flowing football that characterised the French national team of Michel Platini. Cantona heads the French in front against the Soviet Union in the quarter-finals. The Russians are to equalise midway through the second half, exploiting some defending that's a bit too liberated. But the French team are all about attacking, and Cantona wins it with another very special goal. The Russians won't be the first to find out the hard way that given that sort of space, Cantona will punish you.
Before and after the matches, we could all get together and go over the good times as well as the bad.
Next, a two-leg semi-final with England, a consistent power at under-21 level, but it's Cantona's touch and vision that paves the way for Jocelyn Anglomar to put the French ahead. England equalise thanks to a helpful deflection and a goal from Gary Parker. But early in the second half, English football gets its first real taste of the special quality Eric Cantona possesses. Dropping deep, there appears no immediate danger, but Cantona isn't just technically gifted, he's deceptively quick, and once away there'll be no stopping him. It's a quite brilliant goal, and it's a match that Cantona is to look back on with great affection, and a team which still holds a very special place in his heart.
I think we were gifted, because 7 or 8 of us who played in that under-21 team are now in the full national team. And that's a lot. I think the Arsenals is a very good generation. And furthermore, we were all great friends with one another. Without friendship in football, you can't go very far, even if you are gifted.
France go 3-1 up, but if the English were hoping Cantona would settle for that, the coup de grace is still to come. England failed to play the ball out of defence, and Cantona picks out Stefan Pai with a quite superb back heel. It's a piece of innovation that marks him out as an artist. At least that's the way the French will see it. That one back heel is the talk of a nation for weeks to come. All the same, the French still have to negotiate the second leg at Highbury. England have reduced the score to 4-2, but in decidedly different conditions, Cantona and the French run away with it again. And he conjures up 2 goals of the highest quality. The first is a testament to Cantona's pace, strength and finishing ability. The second says an awful lot about his vision, technical ability. He sees the chance and takes the rest in his stride. The first leg of the final in Athens is what everybody expected. Intimidating, physical, and that's just the 80,000 capacity crowd. Greece dominate for much of the game, with the French content to wait for their opportunities on the counter-attack. And it looks as though that tactic might pay off when Cantona is clean through, only to be dragged back by the goalkeeper, who somehow will get away with just a yellow card. Nevertheless, the French come home with a goalless draw, and the national press waits eagerly to crown its younger generation European champions. The sad irony is that Cantona, who'd done more than anyone to get them this close, misses the game injured. But the way his teammates played proved all that had been said about their unquenchable spirit and will to win. On a memorable night, they win in the style to which Cantona had made them accustomed. Franck Sauzet, who'd eventually graduate to play a key role alongside Cantona in the full national team, scores twice. The dazzling French under-21 team get a third near the end just to make sure. Stéphane Paille lifts the trophy and brings the curtain down on one of the most memorable occasions in recent French football history. And by the time the coach gets back to the dressing room, they'd drunk the place dry. It's difficult to believe, but that was only 5 years ago, and it was probably the height of Cantona's popularity in France, because then things began to go off the rails. A dream move to Marseille doesn't turn out the way he'd hoped.
J'ai signé à Marseille parce que
I signed with Marseille because that's where I came from. Also, as a kid, I was a Marseille supporter, and I really wanted to experience what my idols had experienced.
De vivre moi tout ce que mes idoles avaient vécu, quoi. Et puis la première année, c'est pas trop bien passé.
But the first year didn't go very well.
Il y a eu beaucoup.
I was really overawed by the atmosphere. It was really such a powerful change. I couldn't understand exactly what was expected of me. And on top of that, going back to Marseille, seeing all my relatives, all my friends, sort of put me back in the past. I slipped back 10 years. I went back to my amateur days.
Quand j'ai quitté Marseille, moi j'étais amateur, je retournais à Marseille, je retrouvais ma famille, je retrouvais mes amis, donc je revenais 10 ans en arrière, quoi.
Cantona cost Marseille a French record £2.2 million. But there isn't too much inkling of the problems to come at the opening of the 1988-89 season. Alongside Jean-Pierre Papin, the striker with whom he'll forge a formidable partnership in the national team, things begin promisingly. But injuries prevent Cantona from making the right impression week in, week out. And even though he's back to something approaching his best in a match at Strasbourg, Henri Michel, the French national manager, announces that Cantona won't be in his squad for the vital World Cup qualifier in Cyprus, which France will have to win. Cantona scores a typically outstanding goal, but it's what he says afterwards that will make astonishing headlines across France. Emotionally overcome, he launches into a bitter attack on the French coach.
I hope that one day people realise that Henri Michel is the most incompetent recruiter in world football. I was reading an article by Mickey Rourke, who's a guy I really like, and he referred to the people who attributed the Oscars in Hollywood as shitbags. Well, I think that Henri Michel is not far from being included in that category.
Nous avons pris la décision d'exclure Aah Cantona jusqu'à nouvel ordre de toute sélection.
The French FA's response is swift. They ban Cantona from all internationals until further notice. One of the best strikers in Europe is exiled in his own country. All Cantona can do is carry on trying to do what he does best with Marseille. In Cyprus, without Cantona, France can only draw. It's the end of their hopes of reaching the World Cup in Italy and the end of Henri Michel's time as coach. Michel Platini is to take over, and Cantona is suddenly back in the frame. The new coach, Platini, says he was disappointed with the side's failure to put Cyprus under any real pressure. He makes it clear he'll pick a team to win games and the best players to do the job. Personal disputes won't get in the way. But if Cantona fans thought that would be the end of the controversy, he was only just starting to live up to his enfant terrible image. Sent off against Torpedo Moscow, he responds by throwing his shirt at the referee and is promptly banned by the Marseilles president Bernard Tapie for an indefinite period. The French media respond by putting Cantona, the misunderstood complex philosopher, on the psychiatrist's couch.
I'm happy to be crazy. The world in which we live is just boring. Nowadays, anyone who's different from the ordinary is considered crazy, and I'm happy to be considered so. And proud also.
You know, it's always very difficult to know who is crazy and who isn't. This being said, it's true, some people are crazy. My first reflex when I receive patients at the hospital is not to believe those who say they are mad. On the other hand, those who will tell you they think they are perfectly normal are the ones who are really mentally ill.
I express myself without thinking. I say what I feel.
Eric Cantona violent? I find that astonishing. People say that in a world where football causes so many deaths in stadiums and where the footballers keep on hearing "don't give him any space, close him down, kick him and stop him playing," and all of a sudden when Eric Cantona hits back, everybody is astonished and asks themselves where this violence comes from.
Today's image of football is of sweat and of muscles strained through effort. Myself, I dream of lightness, harmony and pleasure. I'm looking for a symphony, but the music of football these days is nothing but heavy metal.
What is in any case striking in all these phrases is the extent to which they have been formulated, the weight they carry when compared with the bullshit which we normally hear in French football. Without going into a textual analysis of his comments, what strikes me about them is their intelligence. When he says, for example, that he dreams of football played like a symphony, he is fed up with football where the ground is designed like a computer screen. And that is what is unbearable in French football. And undoubtedly, although I know nothing about Cantona personally, what disturbs people is his individuality. This man who has stepped back and who finally takes a look at what others have made of him and what they are. That is why I find that Cantona is an excellent analyst of French football. Sometimes it pays to be docile regarding things we cannot beat, and we shouldn't read anything else into his throwing his shirt to the ground or into his menaces.
I've always wanted to live in harmony with who I was, not with any self-imposed project for life. When I react, it's by instinct. Some decisions were good and some not so good. Well, it's the same for everyone. For you, for us. What's important is to leave all that behind. We need to have the strength. I don't know if it's intelligence, but strength to find a solution to our problems.
With life rather complicated at Marseille, Cantona is packed off by Bernard Tapie to Bordeaux for 6 months on loan. But despite the odd goal, it's not a happy time. Bordeaux are struggling to live up to the glories of their recent past.
Afterwards I went to Montpellier. With Stéphane Pay, we both played together in the junior team when young. And it's at Montpellier that we were able to realize our dream.
And with Stéphane Pay, his old colleague from the under-21 team, Cantona gets back to doing what he does best, even if Montpellier as a team aren't too successful. His improved form wins him a place in Michel Platini's French team, building for the 1992 European Championship. And back in tandem with Jean-Pierre Papin, Cantona is once again a success in a national shirt. The French win 4-2 in Malmö, ending a long unbeaten home run for Sweden. 2 from Papin and 2 from Cantona. The goals, when Montpellier score them, nearly always involve Cantona. And his growing success is a key factor in the 3-0 win over Scotland, already through to the World Cup finals in Italy. But typically that goal doesn't make the biggest headlines. A stormy dispute between Cantona and his clubmate Jean-Claude Lemoux is on everyone's lips.
I would like to specify that I did indeed have a disagreement with Jean-Claude Lemoux after our defeat at Lille. I think that this story has since been blown up out of all proportions, following a decision taken by Monsieur Nicolas, which frankly disappointed me.
Once again, the drama has turned into a crisis. Louis Nicolas, the Montpellier coach, takes Cantona to one side and threatens to fire him. Eventually, though, the whole episode, feasted upon eagerly by the seedier elements of the French press, is resolved and Cantona agrees to rejoin the team. And in the right frame of mind, there isn't a better player to have in your side. Montpellier can't win the league, but there's a growing feeling this might be their year in the French Cup. Alongside the distinctive Colombian midfielder Carlos Valderrama, Cantona is at home in a team playing his sort of colourful, stylish football. Montpellier are through to the last 16 of the French Cup, and Cantona is about as relaxed as he's been in months. It shows on his next international appearance. Platini and Beckenbauer, 2 of the all-time great players, are head-to-head as managers for the first time, as the Germans begin their warm-up to the World Cup in Italy. And Beckenbauer sees his side take an early lead. But Cantona is revelling in one of the biggest challenges of his career. Just before half-time, Papin, just onside, equalises. And 4 minutes from the end, the team that will be crowned world champions in a few months are beaten by a Cantona header. And it's the trigger for an inspired run of form that will take Montpellier to the French Cup. In the last 16, Cantona scores a textbook hat-trick. In the quarter-final, a disallowed goal is tough to swallow, but it's a hurdle Cantona and Montpellier will overcome. This time Cantona bites his lip, gets on with the job and gets 2 more goals. The cup is fast turning into his own personal crusade. The semi-final at Saint-Étienne is no different. It's a tough draw for Montpellier, but one moment of magic from you-know-who, and they're through to the final in Paris. And at the Parc des Princes, Montpellier will have to do it the hard way against the local team, Matra Racing. But the big stage is made for Cantona, and with a captive presidential audience, it'll be all right on the night. Montpellier press forward from the start, and Cantona is instrumental in a sweeping first-half performance that threatens a goal at regular intervals. And early in the second half, Montpellier finally get the goal their pressure has promised. And then with 10 minutes left, Cantona creates the chance for the team from the southwest of France to seal a famous victory. Matra Racing will get one back, but it's too late. Montpellier have won playing the right brand of football. Cantona gets his hands on another piece of silverware.
We won the French Cup and had a good season. I went back to Marseille. We were first. Everything was going really well. I scored quite a few goals. But at the end of October, I think the 28th, I think, I injured my knee and I was out of action for 3 or 4 months, I think.
It's not all bad at Marseille. Cantona, when he plays, is a key figure in a team of stars, expected not only to win, but to entertain. There are moments of magic from Cantona that leave even his most illustrious teammates gasping in admiration. Cantona's injuries prevent him playing a major role in Marseille's run-in to the semi-finals of the European Cup that year, a disappointment he's only too keen to make up for with Manchester United. But in the interim, his career in the national team continues to blossom, and for all his disputes and differences back home, that's very important to him.
Now the French team is something else altogether. You can compare yourself with all their best players, world-ranking players, European-ranking players. And this is the best way to assess your own value, to know your worth. Because you can't always tell. When you see your goals on TV, you don't really know. But on this football ground, in front of these players, you can really know your worth. It's only when you play against great international players that you can prove how good a player you really are.
And in the qualifying stages of the 1992 European Championship, Cantona is an integral part of a record-breaking success. He scores in Iceland as France get off to a good start. And after wins over Czechoslovakia, Spain and Albania, Iceland are beaten for a second time at the Parc des Princes, as France become the first ever team to win all of their qualifying matches. Cantona's second completes a 3-1 win over Iceland as the campaign finishes on an almighty high. Platini has brought out the best in his enfant terrible, and France are made many people's favourites to lift their second European Championship in 8 years. But against Holland, in a warm-up game, they can only manage a draw. Cantona and Papin combine for the only goal, but Papin is injured soon afterwards, and when they reach Sweden, the French will have left their all-conquering form behind them.
The European Championship of 1992 in Sweden was a great disappointment. We'd won 8 consecutive matches in the qualifying group, and we were unbeaten in 3 years. Perhaps we arrived a little too much as the favourites, which is probably a little premature in view of our limited experience. But it's useful nevertheless. Experiences like this are worth living.
A fortunate draw with Sweden is followed by another point in a tense goalless match with England, who go closest to scoring. Even so, another draw would still be enough to take the French through against the unfancied Danish. But Henrik Larsson gives the Danes a first-half lead, and for all the French determination, the flair and fluency that so characterised their run into the championship seems to have gone missing. Instead, the Danes are spurred into one last effort, and Lars Elstrup steals a dramatic winner.
C'est quand tu vis des choses difficiles, des moments difficiles.
It's when you come across these difficult moments in life, and that you actually manage to survive them, that you say to yourself, well, I've other things, besides solely my footballing skills. And it's tough from time to time. It's very important to know whether we will have the strength to cope with this, now and in the future, and if we're strong enough to do this.
Life goes on, and that means making sure France qualify for the World Cup in 1994. Platini quits, and they lose to Bulgaria in their first game. But Papin and Cantona remain the trump cards. Cantona creates the first, and then scores the second in a 2-0 win over Austria. That's followed by victory over Finland at the Parc des Princes, and again it's the little and large combination that do the trick. It's around about then that Cantona's move from Leeds to Manchester is finalised, and he doesn't take long to settle in. It's worth remembering that just 12 months earlier, Cantona had decided to quit the game for good after his move from Marseille to Nîmes went badly wrong.
So I went to Nîmes, a club which was on the way up, and we all wanted enough time to turn it into a great club. But what I hadn't banked on was that I wouldn't be given enough time. So I didn't want to waste any more of my time.
Nîmes' ambition amounts to making sure they stay in Division 1 and nothing more. So it's a frustrating time for Cantona, used to a bigger stage. But that doesn't mean he doesn't make the headlines. Never one to suffer fools gladly. He snaps when a refereeing decision goes against him. And this time, there's no turning back.
I decided to stop playing football. I'd been sent off against Saint-Étienne, and the ruling body had passed judgment on my life as a whole, not the isolated incident. So I told them they were idiots, which was remarkably restrained for me. Well, then they suspended me for an additional month, and then I said I was leaving France, and I left.
But France's loss was most definitely English football's gain. If Cantona needed a change, then the English game has provided it. In the high-octane atmosphere of the FA Premier League, his game has blossomed. There have been none of the major indisciplinary problems that infected his earlier career, but plenty of the very special skill that marked him out as a young player. He might be temperamental, he's definitely instinctive. But in a game dominated by the work ethic, Aah Cantona has proved himself to be one of football's genuine artists. And one of the stars of the European game.